Good evening to you all. We're so pleased you're able to join us this evening, your host, for this enchanted presentation of Henry James's Gothic tale, The Turn of the Screw, as adapted by Mr. Geoffrey Hatcher, presented with permission of the Dramatists Publishing Service. Now, our show will last approximately an hour and 45 minutes with a 15-minute intermission. Our performers have been preparing diligently, and we'd like to very much perform for you again sometime in the future. So we ask now, humbly, if you could please make a donation at this time before the show begins. If you haven't already, go to our website, www.experiencetheaterproject.org/donate, and click the donate button there. We appreciate any support you can give us. Helps us to keep our productions alive. Now, following our show, we will have a Q&A where you can have your questions answered about this production, the experience, and future shows, either in this medium or live and in person. Now, shh, make sure your lights are out, your candles are lit, and that your food of choice and your beverages are within arm's reach. Are you ready? Good. There's a young woman, a parson's daughter, engaged as governess to heroine, as she becomes convinced that the children are consorting with a pair of malevolent spirits. These ghosts are former employees of Bly, a handsome valet, and the children's previous governess. 10-year-old Miles and his 8-year-old sister Flora must be protected. But are these really ghosts haunting the children? Or are they only in her mind? Now, Experience Theater Project is proud to present The Turn of the Screw.
But if one child lends the tale one turn, then what can be said of two children? Well, the answer is, of course, two children give two turns. The woman was my sister's governess. She was 10 years my senior, a very agreeable woman, very worthy. She told me the story in the garden. The best stories, she said, always begin in the garden. A man, a woman, a forbidden fruit. The loss of innocence, the discovery of something altogether not. The details, a letter, a locket, a riddle, a name. The words were her own, written in her diary in faded ink on the pages of 7 days. This is the story she tells. It is a story of terror and horror, and it made my very heart stop.
June 17, 1872.
The first day, I meet my destiny.
The only daughter of a poor country parson, I have come up to London at the age of 20 in trepidation to answer in person an advertisement that has already placed me in great correspondence with a prospective patron, a gentleman of wealth and stature, a bachelor in the prime of life, in his imposing house on Harley Street. I love children.
I despise them.
Oh.
Not in the flesh, of course. Love them in the flesh. Despise them figuratively, I mean, as a figure of speech, in theory, as a concept. Not my nephew, not my niece. Don't despise them. They're not concepts. They're actually quite real.
I like a real child.
Well, in this position, quite your sort of thing. Real children, real house, gardens and a lake and a housekeeper, all either real or imaginative in the appearance thereof. Sherry?
No, thank you.
Tea, then?
Yes, please.
Sugar?
No.
Milk?
Yes.
Quite.
Thanks.
Now, business, background. The house is called Bly. No one knows why. It is in Essex, for that's where it is. A family place, many years, never go down. Bit like Hamlet's Elsinore. Towers and battlements, water beneath and below. Rather a ship at sea, Bly. Very romantic, if that's your bent.
I am a romantic at heart.
12 months ago, I was left by the deaths of my brother and his wife, guardians to my nephew and niece. They're delightful creatures.
I am sure.
Never see them, never go down. It's awkward. I'm a bachelor. I have no experience of children.
I'm certain you've done everything within your power.
There are no other relations.
Really?
Family, it's awkward. Their lives take up all my time.
Children.
And my affairs take up all my time.
I understand.
You do.
Not enough time.
You see the conflict.
Persuasively.
I need a woman. I need courage and fineness and a pure heart to guide them. It will be a challenge. The woman I choose must not shrink from that. So many young women are, well, the personification of aversion. You're not that, are you? Aversion?
A what?
Aversion. You're not averse to a challenge, are you?
Oh, no. I enjoy a challenge. It's hard to know sometimes what's best for a child.
What children want is a mystery.
We were all children once. What we want is affection, love, protection. There's nothing like a child in pain.
The girl is there now. The boy is away at school until end of term. You will go to Bly then, immediately, provided the salary and such are to your satisfaction.
I am more than satisfied, sir.
A satisfied woman, our very goal in life. As governess, you will receive all monies from my solicitors. I will send you down with certain letters, instructions, that sort of thing. But you shall be in supreme authority.
Oh, how?
You shall be lonely. You shall be very lonely. Do you fear loneliness?
I do not fear what I know.
I should tell you, there have been other women who have sat in this room, gloves on, eyes expectant, for whom the sacrifice appeared to be prohibitive.
Prohibitive? It sounds like a plot of heaven. Why prohibitive?
Because of my main condition, that you should never bother me. Never. Never. Neither appeal nor complain, not write about anything. You must meet all questions and challenges yourself. From the moment that you enter Bly, our communication is hush. Shh. Have I seduced you?
What are their names?
Miles and Flora.
Miles and Flora. Miles and Flora. I do. I will. I promise. I will sacrifice, and they will be cared for, and it shall be the joy of my life.
Success. I have seduced you.
A question, though. The children have been in your care for 1 year. Am I their first governess?
No. There was a woman.
She moved on?
She went away. God be with you.
The 18th of June, 1872.
The second day I am come to Bly.
By the next morning, my heart is beating with expectation. I've never had charge of children before. I'm sure I'm not up to the task. I imagine the worst. It is in this state of mind I spend the long hours in the bumping, swinging coach which carries me towards my fears.
Whip crack, wheel rattle.
I suppose I had expected or had dreaded something so dreary that what actually greeted me upon turning through the gates was a tremendous surprise. First, the shade of a broad beech avenue which sweeps up the great lawn past a sparkling blue lake with its own green island shimmering in the sun. Above, a looming Gothic tower over which rooks circled and cawed in the golden sky. And then, finally, the great mansion itself, the true splendor of which makes me feel, in the instant, that I have at last come to life.
Oh, Mrs. Gross, the housekeeper. Welcome to Bly.
Thank you, Mrs. Groves. Thank you so very much, to be sure. So, this is our new home. Our employer in London did not tell me how very bright and beautiful it is.
The master loves his surprises.
It is a wonder. I am astonished by its loveliness. I truly am. But not as astonished as the loveliness of this small treasure. You must be Flora. Oh, Flora, Flora, you are an angel. I wonder your good uncle did not make more a point of it to me, lest, of course, he did not wish to further turn your pretty head. And such a pretty frock, and such a beautiful locket round your neck. Oh, Flora, we shall be such good friends. Lovely Flora. Flora.
Flora doesn't speak, miss. Surprise.
A psychological?
She simply doesn't. She is shy.
Well, so am I. That's why we'll make such good companions, Flora. When I was a young girl in my father's parish, I spent many hours alone. If you counted up the hours, I probably spent years not speaking a word. But in the end, I spoke, and spoke a good deal, and speak still I do. And by heavens, yes, I think I see a smile, a shy, widening, delightful smile from behind Mrs. Grove's petticoats. Silence is a virtue, Flora. Silence makes a stupid girl wise, and a clever girl a genius. Flora, would you do me the honor of showing me our fine new home? Success! I have seduced her. Through the garden, Flora leads me to the lake, where we find an old rowboat banked amid the reeds. And there, at the edge of our small sea, we sit on the soft grey wood of our tiny vessel, holding hands underneath the great tower of Bly. I am in love with the child. When I was small, I knew no other children. My mother was dead. My father was harsh. Our scant vicarage home was so cramped and dark and worthy. I so want Flora to love me as I love her. I want more than life itself to protect her and hold her. Over in Killarney, many years ago, my mother sang a song to me in tones so sweet and low. Just a simple little ditty in our good old-fashioned way, and I'd give the world if she could sing a song to me today. As the sun begins to die away, Flora takes my hand. And as she does, she leans down beneath the reeds and plucks such a wild flower, not a buttercup, not a bluebell, but a nightshade. We walk back towards the house, and as we pass under a heavy rush of beach, a kingfisher sobs. Somewhere over water, like the cry of a broken heart. That night, after we've gone upstairs and put Flora to bed in my room, for I have decreed Flora and I shall sleep together, Mrs. Groves and I go below to plan the universe.
Indeed, miss. As you say again, a beautiful child indeed. If you think this well of the little lady, you will be carried away by the gentleman.
That's why I'm here, to be carried away. I'm rather easily carried away, I fear.
Were you carried away in Harley Street? Master, you wouldn't be the first, and you won't be the last.
The master is of a persuasive presence. Is it true he never comes down?
He never came. Oh, I'm glad you're here, miss. It's been very lonely all this time, just me and the little baby.
Well, 3 of us shall make quite a happy little family, I'm sure.
As you say, miss. Well, at least until the coach arrives.
Coach?
When tomorrow, when Miles arrives home from school.
But I did not expect him till the end of term.
Oh, the master sent this letter down with you.
My good woman, please expect my nephew by the morning coach. Enclosed, please find sealed this missive from his headmaster detailing the situation. Deal with it, but not a word to me. Miles has been dismissed, sent down from school. He may not return to us.
Miss?
My duties regretfully require I report Master Miles' behaviours are of a nature injurious to other children, and hence he may not return to us ever. Mrs. Groves, is Miles imperfect?
Oh, well, he's scarcely 10 years old. You might as well think ill of the little lady.
But you've never known him to be bad, have you?
Oh, well, yes, indeed, and thank God, miss. A boy who's never bad is no boy for me.
Oh, yes, I see your meaning. We want a boy with fire.
With spirit.
We want a boy with fire and spirit. Of course, they do use the words corruption, contamination, and unspeakable.
Miss?
They use the words corruption, contamination, and unspeakable. Mrs.
Like I said, yeah, there's spirit, and then there's spirit, miss.
Mrs. Groves, the lady who was here before me, did she see anything in the boy that wasn't right?
Well, she never said.
Tell me about her.
Yeah. She was young and pretty, almost as young and pretty as you are.
He seems to like us young and pretty.
Yes, he did. So he liked all of them.
The master?
Oh, well, yes, the master.
No, wait. You were speaking of someone else.
Who else would I be speaking of? There's no other. You were asking about your predecessor, miss. Well, the answer is she wasn't careful.
Did she stay here long?
Long enough. She went away.
Went away?
She died.
She was taken ill?
She went off from the house and then she was dead. Well, didn't the master tell you all this?
Of course he did. What was the lady's name?
Jessel. It's been a long time since I've said her name. It's late. Welcome to Bly, miss. Lock your doors. The house drafts are powerful in the night.
When I return to my room, I find upon my pillow a gift. It is a locket. Flora must have risen in the night and placed this on my bed. Inside the small cameo are 2 portraits, Painted miniatures. In the dim and by my candlelight, I can just make out the faces. The red locks of the female, the deeper crimson of the male. Miles and Flora? By an unknown hand. I kissed their pictures, placed the chain around my neck, and turned. What I see before me is a figure of a woman, all in dark, alone in an island of darkness. We stare at each other. Until I realize it is me. In the corner of the room, there is a full-length mirror. My father's house had no mirrors. I had never seen the whole of me before. June 19, 1872.
The third day, the gentleman returns to Bly.
It is a great pleasure to meet you, Miles.
Thank you, miss. It's nice to meet you, too. Where's Flora?
I left her with the housekeeper, helping to make your welcoming pudding.
May I go to her, miss?
Yes, you may. I shouldn't wish to keep two such loving siblings apart.
Thank you.
But Miles, I do hope we shall pass many happy hours together. Regardless of what may have transpired at your school, I want to be your friend. Do you understand, Miles?
Yes, miss. May I go to Flora now?
Yes, Miles, you may.
Thank you, miss.
Miles,
Miss?
would you like to kiss me?
Where, miss?
Go on, Miles. Your things will be taken to the master's room. You're old enough now. He is perfect. I shall carry him away. Before dinner, I go for a stroll in the garden of my hamlet's Elsinore, the rooks in the sky, the whispering breeze in the last breeze. I believe I am up to the challenge. I dare say I fancy myself a remarkable young woman. And someday, this remarkability will be more publicly remarked upon. Someday, sometime soon, he will appear and approve with his light in his handsome face. I am here to protect and defend his small treasures, his children now. I have heard stories of masters and governesses before. It is not unknown. And of course there's Jane Eyre's success to comfort my improbabilities. This is my magnificent chance. But still, I ask myself, what would bring the master here? I am deep within the garden when it comes into view. All the sounds stop. What arrests me on the spot is a sense that my imagination has in a flash turned real. He does stand there, high up in the clear twilight. At the very top of the tower, a figure stands upon the battlement. But it is not the person I had expected. I have not seen this face before. We stare at each other, as if in a mutual challenge, and then he slowly changes places, passing to the opposite corner of the tower, and he's gone.
Miss?
Oh, Mrs. Groves.
Oh, dinner is served, miss. Is something the matter?
It's nothing. Let's go to the children.
Yes, miss.
At dinner that night, I dine at the head of the table where the mistress sits, Miles and Flora at my side. It is too early to go to bed, Miles. What shall we do? Games? Charades? Do you play any instruments?
The piano, miss.
They taught you that at school, did they?
No,
And where did you learn to play?
I learnt it here, miss.
Ah,
Would you like me to play, miss?
I would, indeed. How about you, Flora?
Flora's fond of music. I know what she likes.
Well then, to the nursery we go. We have not spoken of the other ladies' departure from their lives, though Surely there are feelings there, and I do not believe it right to keep such feelings locked and shuttered. If Miss Jessel had brought music into their lives, then why lock Miss Jessel away just because she is dead?
I should warn you, I do not play well.
Then I promise to listen very badly.
You're funny, miss.
His playing is so charming, childlike in its naivete, adult in its intensity. I understand what happened to Miles at that school. He was simply too fine and fair for that vindictive, horrid, unclean school world. My eyes stray from Miles's small frame to the nursery window. Rain streaks the panes, caught in the candlelight, like red rivulets, blackness framing the night beyond. And I see him. At the window, in the night, it is the same face. He stares deep and hard at me. We recognize each other. But he has not come for me. He's staring at the fingers on the keys. He has come for someone else. Miles!
There's something the matter, miss.
Oh, stop it, Flora! Mrs. Groves!
Yes, miss.
Put the children to bed.
Yes, miss, yes.
When the children are safe and away, I tell Mrs. Groves my information. Mrs. Groves, we are not alone at Bly.
Not alone?
Did you see his face too? Looking in through that window, such an extraordinary looking man.
Where did he go?
I don't know. The moment I stood, he was gone.
What, had you seen him before?
Yes, on the tower, this afternoon.
You saw a stranger this afternoon? You didn't tell me.
He was on the tower this afternoon, staring down at me. He made his way in to find me on the spot and then stole away as he had come. He's a horror.
A horror?
I saw him.
Well, yes, miss.
As I see you.
Of course, miss.
How did he get in, Mrs. Groves?
I've had no opportunity to quiz him, miss. Does he only peep?
You think I'm making up stories?
You've had a long day and...
Never mind. Go to bed, Mrs. Groves, if you don't believe me.
Oh, miss,
I shall stay up and watch the children. Good night, Mrs. Groves. I'll let you know the next time I see a strange man who shouldn't be at Bly.
Miss, wait. As you were the one who saw this man, describe what he's like.
He's like nobody. He has red hair and a pale face, long, good features, rather queer whiskers, red as his hair. His mouth is wide and his lips are thin, and his eyes are sharp, strange, fixed.
Would you call him a gentleman?
No, he's not a gentleman.
Would you call him handsome?
Yes.
And his dress, would you call his clothes good?
I might, but...
Go on.
But they are not his own.
No, they're not.
What are you trying to say?
They're the master's clothes.
You know him?
Oh, I've been dying to tell you, miss.
Well, don't die before you tell me.
Quint. Peter Quint. He was the master's valet when the master was here. When the master left, Quint remained. He was in charge. Oh, he was very clever, miss. Very deep. No one could go against Quint. The power that man had over that boy. Oh, the things that man could do.
And yet he was in charge of the children.
Well, the master said as much. It was Quint's own fancy to spoil them, to play with them. Quint was much too free. He'd put on the master's finery and lead Miles off into the garden. My boy's getting on, he'd laugh. He's getting on. He called himself the boy's tutor. He to Miles as Miss Jessel was to Flora.
Why didn't Miss Jessel separate this creature from the children?
Jessel didn't care.
Why in heaven not?
She and Quint, they did things.
What things?
Nothing nice.
Tell me.
Miss, there are directions for which in the present I mustn't let myself go.
When a woman is hesitant to go further, the full distance, I fear, is her only destination. As for Mr. Quint and his return here, we'll scour the grounds first thing. We'll find this trespasser and send him packing.
Trespasser?
We'll call the constable on the morrow. Have him in irons.
You don't understand, miss.
I understand. He's a servant who's come back to...
He went away.
He's dead?
Oh, yes. Mr. Quint is dead.
Mrs. Groves, I appreciate the great decency of your not having hitherto spoken, but certainly the time has come to abandon reticence. Tell me the story. How did Quint and Jessel die? And what was there between them?
Everything. She started a lady, miss, like you. And he so below. And she resisted at first, her Bible like a shield against her breast. But soon, he did as he wished with her. It was what she desired. A lady done to by the likes of him, wherever he liked, however he liked. They were infamous. You'd always hear her call him Peter Quint, you devil, in the garden, in the nursery, in your room, and the children watching all the vile things they did and saying such horrors, all of them whispering such vile, horrible words into each other's ears. The house hissed like snakes. And then it stopped. And the house was filled with Jessel's weeping. She drowned herself in the lake. They found her Bible floating in the reeds. And she was better off that way than seeing it through. A woman alone in her condition. You know what they say, miss. The madhouses are full of governesses.
And Quint?
Oh, it's unnatural. After all her weeping and him paying no mind, still, after she drowned, something happened to Quint. Well, abandoned Miles and Flora, he gave them up. He would get drunk every night in the garden, in the nursery.
In my room.
And then, one night in winter, he put on the master's silks, went off from the house and never came back. They found him at the bottom of the tower, not a stone's throw from the lake. His ice was thick on his brow, and those small, fixed eyes were cracked wide open, and his head was split in two from the fall.
He loved her. Did they, who found him, call it an accident?
The magistrate called it an accident. They who found him was Miles and Flora. Nobody knows that but me, miss. The magistrate thought I found Quint, not the little ones. I lied under oath. Oh, you can't have seen Quint.
I described him then. How would I know what he looked like? Show me a picture. Find one.
There aren't any. They burned them.
Ooh.
The children. Well, after Quentin Jessel died, Miles made Flora take everything and throw them into a fire. It was the last they ever said his name. It's the last Flora ever spoke at all.
And that's the story?
You've come at the end of the story.
I don't think so. Peter Quint. Peter Quint.
What are you going to do?
I?
You are in supreme authority.
Oh, yes. The master has given me that. First, we must not tell the children. We must keep this visitation private. Never a hint. Never, never. Promise, my dear.
I am sworn. And the master, will you write the master about Quint?
No.
Nothing.
Not a word. The master is not to be troubled, and we shall not break our vows.
Then I shall stand by you, miss.
We must stand together. We must hold each other, Mrs. Crows. God is with us. We must love the children. At night, in bed, I write. I'm alone at the helm of a ship called Bly, moving through the sea at night. If only they knew how afraid I am of water. I'm alone, the heroine of their story, and I must see the children safe. I must succeed where other young women, loves on, eyes expectant, would so assuredly fail. The master, though separated, he and I are really together. We are united in the care of our children. All they have is me, and I have them. Peter Quint. Peter Quint. Why are you here, you devil? June 20, 1872.
The fourth day, the governors at the lake.
At a picnic by the pond this afternoon, I plan to question Miles about things past and present. Flora runs off after a red and black butterfly that hovers just over the old rowboat banked at our small sea. I inhale deeply to gather my courage and turn to see Miles standing over me.
Do you think me bad?
Bad?
Last night, you seemed upset. Did you think my playing bad?
Oh, no, I adored your playing. I had a headache is all from the strain of reading. In fact, I am today still having trouble with my eyes. Would you care to read to me, Miles? I'd like to hear your voice wrapped around my book. What do you say? Are you troubled, Miles?
No, not really.
Would you like to play?
I'm too old to play.
Oh.
I like to spin.
Well, so do I.
I like to spin for real.
Would you like to show me?
No, I'm not in the spinning mood.
You're a tease, Miles.
I have been told that.
Where? At school? You know, girls aren't sent off to school. I was taught by my father at home. He only let me read the Bible, but I'd sneak in other books, poems, romances. I'd have to read fast, though, because if he found out I was deceiving him, he'd take the books before I could finish. Sometimes I'd have to read the last page first just to know how the story ended, in case my books were torn to bits or burnt. Mine was not a happy education. Were you very happy at your school, Miles?
I'm happy enough anyway.
You know, I could teach you quite a lot. I could teach you the stars and planets, the 7 seas, and the 5 senses.
Well, I already know the 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. I also know the 7 seas, the 8 planets, geography of Eden, and where little babies come from. What can you teach me?
Well, I'm sure I'll think of something.
It doesn't matter. You're Flora's tutor, not mine.
Well, Flora is far better behaved than you. Flora would read to me if I asked. Miles?
I would speak if I could read. It's a disease. My eyes don't see the words in the right order. They go all round.
But if you can't read, then how did you learn to play the piano so beautifully?
Differently. One can learn by listening and by touching.
Well, if you can't read to me, then I shall tell you stories, but you'll have to trust the teller.
I trust you.
Do you?
My uncle does, so we all must. Would you like to see my uncle come down?
Why, I want whatever your uncle wishes.
If you wanted him to come, he would. You could write him.
I don't think I shall, Miles.
Well, then, what would make him come down? We should think about that. Do you like riddles?
Why, yes, I do.
We like riddles too. Would you like to play a game of riddles?
Well, I'm not very clever.
That's all right. You start. You're the governess.
Well then, here goes. What most resembles half a red apple?
The other half.
Quite right. How very smart of you, Miles.
Thank you, miss. Do another.
Very well. Why does the ocean get so angry?
Because it is so often crossed.
Quite right.
Thank you, miss. Do another.
Well, what was the longest day of Adam's life? What was the longest day of Adam's life?
Miss, I'm sorry.
What was the longest day of Adam's life?
The one on which there was no Eve.
And when is a woman duplicated?
When she's beside herself.
What's the best way to keep someone's love? Miles, what's the best way to keep someone's love?
Don't return it.
Well, do you know any riddles, Miles?
32 dancers on a red hill. Now they dance, now they prance, now they stand still. What am I?
Teeth.
Quite right.
Do another.
One can possess me without seeing me. One can carry me without feeling me. One can give me without having me. What am I? Give up? A cuckold's horns.
Miles, who taught you a riddle like that?
I am unusual. I have no soul and no body. One cannot see me, but one can hear me. Only a living being can give me life. I die the moment I am born. What am I?
Ghost?
A ghost? No, silly. Music.
Oh, of course.
But one last one. What's twice as frightening as a ghost? Give up? 2 ghosts.
It is in that moment I see her. We had been speaking long enough not to notice what little Flora was doing. Flora, my diminutive Ophelia, starting to move into the water towards the reeds. She stares at me as if trying to decide which way to go. And And then Miles raises his hand. She moves back towards me.
Flora?
What did she see? Could it be a
Flora?
woman in black? Hair of red? Pale as death? Does she wear a locket?
Flora!
Could Flora see it?
Flora!
She cry out.
Flora!
Flora turns from the direction of the apparition. Her wet petticoats in a white cloud swirl behind her. She stares at me. Miles raises his hand and she starts to move back towards me. With both the children hurrying back towards the house, I turn. Miss Jessel was still there. The children safe in bed. I tell Mrs. Groves.
Miss Jessel.
Mrs. Groves does not believe me. I describe Miss Jessel.
Jessel.
Mrs. Groves believes me.
And the children?
Oh, they didn't say a word, of course.
Well, you think they saw her?
I cannot say.
Well, is there any evidence they glimpsed her form?
I'm certain I'm mistaken, but when Flora started to move off towards the water, I could swear Miles tried to distract me.
Why would he want to do that?
What children want is a mystery. I think I'll stay up a bit later this evening.
Stay up alone?
I'll have trouble sleeping. Anyway, I'll be fine. I'll have my tea and the candle and the good book to keep me safe.
Yes, miss. As you wish, miss.
Midnight, June 21, 1872.
The fifth day, the lullaby and the riddle.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Yea, hath God said ye shall not eat of the tree in the garden? And the woman spoke, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Greag. Footfall.
And the serpent replied, In the day ye eat thereof the fruit, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, and ye shall know all good and...
Footfall.
It is a lullaby, a children's melody, in a high, sweet voice behind the nursery door. I reach for my key.
Jangle. Deadbolt. Click.
Flora! Flora, what are you doing in the nursery this time of night? Was that you humming? You shake your head no. Who was it then? Come away from the window, Flora. Go back to our room. I turn. At the window, in the night, is Miles in his white night clothes, staring up at the house, staring up above me, staring up at the tower where I saw Quint. By the time I reach his room, Miles is under the sheets, his eyes closed, breathing heavily, his face flushed and glistening. I do not pretend to wake his pretended sleep. I go to the passageway to descend the stairs below. My candle goes out. Above me, the windows carve a curve of moonlight in the dark. Peter Quint! Peter Quint! Is that you? I can see you. I can stand here in the dark for hours. The clock strikes 1.
1,
2.
1, 2,
3.
1, 2, 3.
The darkness is my friend, Peter Quint. I can see your face. It changes shape and expression. Sometimes smiling with your fine white teeth. Other times contorted in a fiendish gash. Can you see the whole of me in my gown upon the stairs? My courage knows no bounds. Why is there no one at Bly to witness my boldness? The clock strikes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Peter Quint. Peter Quint, what do you want here?
Shh.
Curious fingers of an unsuspected draft have turned the pages of my Bible. And there, written in the margin of Genesis in the shaken scroll of a female hand, is a riddle. What comes between a man and a woman but allows everything? What comes between a man and a woman but allows everything?
Miss! Oh, Miss, it's past dawn. Have you been down here all night? Oh, you look a fright, Miss. What's the matter?
I had visitors last night, and we all got up to greet them. Mrs. Gross, whose Bible is this that I've been reading?
Oh, God bless us.
And do you recognize the writing?
It's Jessel's hand.
They were here last night, in the nursery, in the garden. Quint and Jessel and the children know.
Oh, Lord, Miss, we must inform the master.
What? Tell him that his house is haunted and his nephew and niece are the prey of devils?
Miss, he ought to be here. He ought to help.
They have a hold over the children more powerful than they had in life. They beckon to them and the children come and then they lie about it. Their uncle will never believe us.
But what do the spectres want?
If we can answer this riddle, then we'll know what the ghosts desire. I promise to fight for his children alone. The children are in my charge. We shall not write.
Yes, miss. We shall not write.
But by the next morning, as if the children could read my mind, Miles begins a chant designed to prick my confidence.
When will Uncle come?
Miles asks.
Flora misses him.
Laura nods too.
Right, Uncle, Miss, please. You know how we want him.
And later,
Have you written Uncle yet?
asks Miles.
Flora pines for him.
Laura pines too.
Right, Uncle, Miss, please. It's not too late.
And by dark,
Uncle, write him now.
they know somehow that I am under the master's orders not to write. But I shall not lose patience, nor temper. I don't hate them. I love my innocent babies. I want to protect them and keep them innocent little children forever, but they are being tempted into the garden and I must bring them back. They smile, they play, they laugh. Such childlike laughter. Mirthful little Miles and Flora, the silent chuckler. Did he teach you to laugh like that? What did he teach you? What do the spectres want? What happened at that school? What comes between a man and a woman but allows? My head is pounding. I crave release. And release comes. And it comes at a rush. June 22, 1872.
The 6th day, the Tempest.
We walk through the graveyard to the chapel Saturday morning to lay flowers for the altar, when the young gentleman poses me a question I am unprepared for.
When, Miss, please, am I going back to school.
You want to go back to school? You're barely home a week. Miles, you haven't even gone to the stable to visit your pony.
I'm too old for ponies.
Really? Well, but don't you like being home? Home with your dear own sister?
Oh, well, yes, I like Flora well enough. Well, and there's you, of course, but I'm getting on, you see.
Getting on?
And a boy who's getting on shouldn't be in so much the company of ladies. A boy who's getting on wants his own sort.
Well, there aren't many your sort, Miles. Unless, of course, dear Flora. You and Flora share so much. So many things I can't even begin to imagine. Secrets and mysteries and games.
I'm too old for games.
I see. Too old for some things and just old enough for others. Like going into the garden the other night.
So you did see me.
Yes, I most certainly did. Why were you out there, Miles?
If I tell you, will you understand?
I shall try.
I did it so you would think me bad.
By going outside after midnight?
When I'm bad, I am bad.
Charming. But how could you be so sure that I'd see you?
I arranged it with Flora. She was to get up in the night and look out the nursery window at me. Flora does everything I tell her to, so, you see, it was all in good fun.
Yes, I thought it was fun too. You won't do it again, will you?
Not
You weren't
that
out there
again.
to meet someone, were you, Miles?
Who would that be, miss?
Well, you certainly won't do it again.
No, not that again.
Good.
That was nothing.
We must not fall behind, Mrs. Groves and Flora.
I do believe I asked you a question, miss. When am I going back to school?
So much anxiousness in such a little boy.
A boy has his desires.
At the ripe old age of 10?
I am wise in my generation.
A quote from scripture. I am impressed. Did someone read that to you from her Bible?
You'd like my uncle to come down, wouldn't you?
Don't you know why you were sent home from school?
I know my uncle sent down a letter with you.
He did.
Well, what was in that letter, miss?
Don't you know? Why would you want to leave your lovely home and your own dear sister so very soon unless there's something here you're afraid of? Is there something or someone at Bly you fear? Is that the real reason you want to go back?
You would like my uncle to come down, wouldn't you?
What I desire has nothing to do with...
But you're not allowed to bother him, are you? What if we could get him to come down without your having to do it? Then, if we could do that, then would you help me to leave Bly?
Well, how would we do this?
Something could happen.
Miles.
Flora?
Oh, she's up ahead with Mrs. Groves. Miles.
Miss?
Miles, I have a question. It's been vexing me of late, and you're so very clever, Miles. It's a riddle. What comes between a man and a woman but allows everything?
That's easy, miss. A touch.
Run away from the lake. To the park, to the church, to the garden, to the house, to the steps, to my room up above. Leave Bly immediately. Pack what I need and send for the rest. Leave a note and be done. I open my bedroom door. The fading light. I see her. Jessel, my weeping predecessor, standing before me in the gloom, dishonored and tragic, her haggard beauty and her unutterable woe. Why do you weep, you terrible, miserable woman? You have defeated me. I am no heroine. I cannot save the children. I am alone and unable and untouched. The children belong to you and that devil, Peter Quint. Peter Quint. Peter Quint. Peter Quint. Peter Quint. His name. Jessel. Jessel. I must not flee. My governess has given me the clue. I now know how to save the children.
Miss, we was all worried. What happened to you at the church?
Oh, my dear, I've had my fill of churches. I came back to see a friend. I came back to have a meeting with Miss Jessel.
You spoke to her?
She has shown me the way. I know why the spectres have returned to Bly, and I know why the children have been trying to bring them back.
Bring them back? But the lovely babies have been so good.
The lovely babies haven't been so good. They've just been clever. They've tried to scare me. They've tried to drive me away. They're not mine. They're not ours. They belong to Quint and that woman, and they've been trying to get a hold of them.
But for what?
Miles answered the riddle for me in the garden. What comes between a man and a woman but allows everything? A touch. The ghosts want the children so they can once again touch each other, enter each other, possess each other, but they can only possess each other by entering the children and possessing them. Miles and Flora will lose their souls and become part of their vile physic. They can perform their foul deeds for them in the garden and in the nursery.
But what can stop them?
I can. I know how to stop the villains for good and all.
How?
Shh. Hush, hush. Mrs. Gross, I must start at the outer edges of the conspiracy.
Where do you begin?
With Miles's school, with the crimes. His headmaster dared not speak. Why was Miles expelled? Is he stupid? Is he untidy? Is he ill-mannered? No, Miles is exquisite. So the reason can only be evil. And whatever evil he did at that school, someone taught it him. If I can discover what Miles did at that school, I'll have Peter Quint within my grasp. Mrs. Gross, you said the children have not spoken his name since the day he died, correct?
That's right.
And where are the children now?
They're taking their naps.
Good. I need pen and paper. I start by writing their uncle.
Oh, thank God. Oh.
I should have abandoned my restraint long ago. The master must see. The master must witness what I am to do. This is what we are fighting for, Mrs. Groves. Innocence. Beautiful, untouched innocence. Get me light for the master's study. My father always said the burning candle was a symbol of flesh and mortality. Let us not burn at both ends. My dear, please forgive inexperience, foolishness, a parson's girl, condition, your challenges, the children, lovely, lovely, demons, unspeakable. Help us, please. The children. Save them. The children. Save them. Our children. Come.
Your candle's out.
Miles, how did you know I'd be in here?
I heard you. You're like a troop of cavalry.
What is it you want, Miles? I have duties to perform.
Why did you run away at the churchyard?
I didn't run away. I stayed. Here is where the real challenge is.
Is that a letter you're writing?
Yes, it is.
Is it to my uncle?
Excuse me, Miles. I must go to Flora upstairs now.
We won't find Flora in her room.
Where is she then?
I told you. I'd take care of everything.
Miles! Miles! Mrs. Groves! Mrs. Groves, is Flora with you?
Well, I thought you were looking in on her.
He tricked me. She'll be at the lake. Come. A storm had come in. The clouds were purple, smoke low above the water.
There she is.
Flora stands a short way off in the old rowboat. As we arrive, as if she had been expecting our appearance, she leans down and plucks the mooring rope with one touch. We watch as the knot unfurls and the coil snakes round her feet, and the boat slides off across the water. The devils know I am afraid of water.
Flora!
It begins to rain. Mrs. Groves pitches into the waves, tearing against the reeds. Her great petticoats, under which Flora had hid so charmingly just days before, billowing and thrashing, pulling her down beneath the white caps that now rise from the depths, the lightning cracking and splintering above the poor old woman's head.
Flora!
I look across the bank. Miss Jessel stands on her small island, a white harbour in flashing light. The black ocean swelling a maelstrom round her. But she does not stare at Flora in her small vessel, or Mrs. Groves, whose calls are now choked by the sea that disappears her head from view. She's staring up at the house. From the tower, I know Quint will be conducting. I look back to the lake. Oh, my eyes whipped by sleet and hail. Mrs. Groves is gone. And Flora has almost made it to the shore of Jessel's Island. Wake up! Wake up! In a moment, I will be out of this nightmare. I will find myself in bed at my father's house, long before Bly, long before my trip to London. No Quint, no Jessel, no Miles, no Flora, or their uncle. Wake up, damn you, wake up!
Miss! Miss, help me, I've got to... Come on, give me your hand. Can't you see the child's crying?
She isn't crying, she's laughing. She's smiling. She almost made it. Why not smile? That smile like a flash, like the glitter of a drawn blade.
Oh, it is Flora.
You saw her, didn't you, Flora? You saw her then, and you see her still.
You're hurting the child, miss. You're hurting the child.
Look, Flora. Tell us you see her. Tell us you see Miss Jessel.
Miss!
It's proof. She is there. It's proof. I am neither mad nor cruel. She is there, you little unhappy thing. You see.
Oh, see what?
She's big as a blazing fire. Look.
She isn't there. There's no one there. Miss Jessel is dead. The poor girl's dead and buried. Come on, Flora. We know that, don't we? Come on, Flora. I won't let the governess harm you anymore. Oh, my sweet.
Flora, you leave me, Flora, on the shore of our small sea.
Drip, drip, drip.
Inside the house upstairs, I can hear Flora's mocking sobs.
You can't go in the nursery, miss.
She won't see me?
She's afraid of you, miss.
She told you that?
You and me both know Flora hasn't spoken since the morning she found Quint in the snow.
Ah, yes. Your great secret. Naughty Mrs. Groves not to tell.
Miss, you frightened her. She was playing in the boat and the rope let go. Someone should have been watching her, is all.
She saw the ghosts.
I didn't see them.
I did. I saw Quint. And I saw Jessel. I've described them. How could I know what they look like? There aren't any pictures. The children burnt them. How could I know?
Look in your locket.
Those are portraits of Flora and Miles.
Those are portraits of Quint and Jessel. Flora must have kept the locket hidden from Miles. Look at them. You've seen them before. His eyes, Her red hair is quaint and Jessel, and as for your clues and riddles, Jessel could have written in that Bible long ago. It's just the sort of thing she would have written, as her mind went.
What a clever bunch. You all want to get rid of me. That's what you got in mind for me now? Speed me on my way? No, it is you who must go.
You're right, miss.
And you must take Flora with you.
I agree, miss.
Straight to her uncle. Leave Miles with me. I shall tear out a confession of his schoolyard crimes and then exorcise the devil's name.
I'm taking Miles with me, too.
I am in charge of the children. Read the master's instructions of that, I am sure.
I'm taking them both, miss. You can't stop me.
I can, actually. A housekeeper who lied to the magistrate in a court case. That wouldn't go down well for you, would it?
I told you that in confidence, miss.
Yes. Surprise.
Miles will stay. I'll take Flora to London.
Take the little horror. Get her away. Far from this. Far from them. One thing more. My letter must reach the master with you. It is in the study.
There's no letter in the study.
Well, I left it there when Miles came into... Yes, of course. It doesn't matter. The master will know. Despite it all, Miles will confess. And if he confesses, he's saved. And if he's saved...
Then you are.
We all are.
God be with you.
Within the hour, it was midnight, and the carriage containing Flora and Mrs. Groves rolled through the gates. I go to the master's bedroom to wait.
The last day, the lovers reunited.
Well, alone at last.
Is she really awfully ill?
Little Flora?
Well, who else could be awfully ill?
Flora will be better. The spirits here do not agree with her.
Oh, well, I'm certainly glad that things here agree with me.
I am so pleased.
Yes, I've never felt so free. Don't you like it?
My dear, how could I help it? Aside from everything else, there's your company. I have you all to myself now.
You stayed on just for that?
I stay on as your friend.
Even though you're afraid of me?
I care for you, Miles. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you.
Then help me to leave Bly.
Not until we finish our lessons, Miles. Not until we've told each other both what we need to know.
Oh, then, perhaps I'll stay.
You're quite a riddle, Miles. You say you want to stay, you say you want to go. Which is it? Who's speaking for you? I think Miles, like any little boy, wants to go back to school, but someone else wants Miles to stay here. Am I right, Miles?
What do you want?
I want you to tell me what you did at your school.
No.
They're gone now, Miles. It's different between the two of us. What are you looking at? In the garden? What is it you see in the dark? Do you want to go into the garden again?
Oh, no, I will tell you everything. I'll tell you anything you like. I will tell you. I will. Just not now.
Why not now? Crocodile tears.
I just want.
What?
I want to go to the stable.
You do?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Why?
I want to see my pony.
Liar.
Miss?
I sent for your uncle. I sent him a letter.
What did you tell him?
The truth.
You know the truth?
I know as much as I've seen and heard.
And you told him that?
Everything. About Flora, about you, about what a good boy you've been.
Liar.
You took my letter. You know what's in my letter, but you can't read. Who read you my letter?
I can make out certain words, like inexperience and children and touch.
It was you who told Flora to go into the lake. You've been conspiring to deliver Flora into the hands of those creatures, haven't you?
I only told Flora to go play at the lake just to scare you so that my uncle would come down here and take me away from Bly.
Liar, liar, little Miles. Come here, my dear. I want to tell you a riddle.
No, I don't want to hear it.
But you must. You're so good at riddles. What hangs on a man all his life, from the day he's born until the day he dies, but never touches him?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. It's easy. What hangs on a man all his life but never touches him? Say it, Miles. Say it.
His name.
Quite right. His name. Say his name. Come to me, Miles. I must fight for your soul.
You're scaring me, miss.
Let me touch your face. You're sweating, Miles. The lovely dew on your childish forehead.
I'm scared, miss.
You want to go into the garden, don't you, Miles? The best stories always begin in the garden. Eh, Miles? A man, a woman, a serpent. He's in the garden, isn't he?
No! Who?
Touch me, Miles.
Let me go!
He wants you, Miles, but I want you too.
Please!
Come into the garden. Why did you take my letter? Tell me.
I don't
Who
know.
told you to steal my letter?
No one.
Lies again. What did you do with my letter? Did you burn it? Is that what you did at school? Burn things?
What?
Did you take things? Steal things? Is that why you can't go back?
I didn't steal things.
Then what did you do?
I...
Come on, Miles.
Please.
Tell me, Miles.
I said things.
Said things?
Yes.
Said them, not did them.
No.
And they expelled you for saying things?
Yes.
Well, who did you say them to?
I don't know.
Everyone?
No.
Then who?
I don't remember their names.
Oh, were there so many?
Just a few.
Go on, Miles.
The ones I liked.
And they repeated what you said?
They must have.
To whom?
The ones they liked.
Treachery. And the masters know?
They said the words were bad.
The words?
The words were very bad.
But you never did anything?
Words are worse, he said.
Who said?
Once they're told.
Who told?
You can't take words back, he said.
Who told you that, Miles?
Can't unlearn, boy.
Say the words. What were those words?
They're unspeakable, don't you see? I'm different. Different from the other kids at school. I frightened them too. I knew things they didn't. I've seen things. I've heard things. I'm more grown up.
What do you see? In the garden? Hold me, Miles. Hold me tight.
You want me to touch you?
Come into the garden. Tell me.
No.
Is he here?
No.
He isn't.
No, there's no one.
Liars die, Miles. You see him, don't you, Miles? Your villainous tutor straight before us. See?
Help! Help!
I name the demon,
Oh,
his face
oh,
in the
please,
night,
please.
white damnation.
I can't.
I name the
Please,
defiler,
please.
and his powers
I
gone.
can't.
I hold you so tight, my child, so tight. No one will hurt you, my darling, not a living soul, no one. God is with me. God
Please, please.
is with me. You won't take my child, do you hear? You won't take my child, you villain whore.
Is it... Who?
You know who it is.
Is it him?
Yes. Say his name. Say his name and set you free.
Peter Quint.
Say his name.
Peter Quint.
Say his name.
Peter Quint.
Yes. Yes, yes.
You devil.
When it is over, I hold my child in my arms. There, in the garden, at last, we are alone. And his little heart, dispossessed, stops.
As of the last event, these things are known. Mrs. Gross died within the year, and little Flora was sent to live in a madhouse where, as the governess said, as Mrs. Gross said, the corridors are full of governesses. And the lady, after that night, she would only work for families with 2 children. It was a condition. And as her charges grew too old, she would move on, like a flying Dutchman, an ancient mariner upon the sea. She tells her story.
We were all children once. What we want is affection, love, protection. There's nothing like a child in pain.
Has she seduced you? Well, God be with you.